Hi guys, welcome along to another BVI Pilots podcast episode. It's been a little while since we did one, mid-July, but we are back, hopefully with a few episodes over the next few weeks because there's some exciting things coming up. This episode, we are going to talk about a few things that have happened over the past few weeks, a few discoveries and a few observations. But first, we got another interview for you, second one, and it's going to be Thomas today. Hey, Thomas.
Hi there.
Of course, we got Johnny with us here as usual.
Hey guys, how's it going? And Thomas, good to have you on, man. It's gonna be exciting to have you here.
Oh yeah, man. Yep.
Absolutely. So the reason we decided to bring Thomas on was because we said in the intro that we wanted to bring some people on who had some real-world flying experience, not just the old commercial jumping in a 737 flying off, but actually flying something a bit more interesting. And if we could kind of link that back to the sim and say, okay, well, how is that different to how we do things in the sim, and what's similar? And I'm sure Thomas is going to explain, but he recently had a real-world flying experience with a friend of his. So yeah, if you just tell us a bit more about exactly what you went and did.
Yeah, absolutely. Basically, I basically did this for my birthday, and I wanted to find something interesting to do for my birthday and whatnot. And we found it. And so there was an event in Navarre, Florida, where I'm from. Or I'm from Pensacola, Florida, but Navarre is not that far away. But it was called Fly the Boat, and we found out what it was. And I even talked to the guy that did it before we went out and flew. His name is Jeff Bell. He's a wonderful guy indeed. He very easygoing, but he loves flying. He really, really enjoys flying. But anyway, we went out there, and it was my first time ever flying on a glider. And really, to give you kind of an idea, whenever you're sitting in a glider, it's like flying a motorcycle in the sky. You're that wide open when it comes to that. And for those of us like me who are scared of too much wind going in your face, taking too much air out of you, always wear a face mask. That way that wind won't get in there and won't bother you so much.
Yeah.
But anyway, so basically what had happened was we went out there, and I'm telling you, there's nothing like flying in an open cockpit, having the wind around you. We were only going 45 miles per hour, maybe 40 miles per hour to 45 miles per hour. We were only going, but we got up to about maybe 1,500 feet at our maximum altitude. But it was wonderful. I mean, in that engine, to give you guys an idea, I was sitting in front of an 80 horsepower 4-stroke engine. And when you hear that engine plus the prop, you've got to wear earmuffs. And these earmuffs, it wasn't just earmuffs, it was also, it was earmuffs, but it was also comms as well, so I could hear him, he could hear me. But basically, I'm telling you, it really differs from when you're flying, like if you're flying in an enclosed cockpit, because when you're flying, let's say in a Cessna, it's basically like you're flying in a car. You don't get that wide open feeling as to if you're flying. For example, the aircraft that he was flying was a Cygnet 2 ultralight, amphibious ultralight aircraft, and it was a
You
wonderful
still get in it. Just to be clear for people, you still get inside of this. There's still you climb into it, but there's no sides on it, right? Give us a description on kind of how that's set up. Like, are you sitting on a seat where your legs are on each side of it, or is it a regular seat? Give us a little bit of a description on exactly how that is, Thomas.
Okay, so basically you have two seats, one in the front, one in the back, and I was sitting behind the pilot. He had his helmet on, and he had a headset connected to his handheld radio. So anyway, you basically have to throw your leg over the seat to get in, and you sit behind the pilot. And your feet, like, you want to fly barefoot. You want to take off your shoes because your shoes are going to get wet.
But it's a regular seat, right? You don't got the seat between your legs, do you? Or like it's a regular seat like you normally would have. You just
No, it's pretty much like picture a bucket seat but acting as a saddle. That's pretty much what it is.
So your feet go on the sides of it.
Yes. Your legs go on either side of your legs go on either side of it, and so as a result,
I just wanted to make sure people understood exactly, kind of picture that in their mind, so they didn't get confused about that. But go ahead.
Right.
Go ahead.
But anyway, basically, here's what happened. We started going, and first, whenever the flight began, I was a little scared because I felt all that wind coming at me, and I knew we were going out on the water. And plus the sound of the prop, I mean, it will get to you if you're not careful. And so that's why whenever we went out like that, I went ahead. He actually had a face mask he put over me, and I put the headphones over that, and that actually kept me safe. Like, I could actually breathe, and the wind wasn't getting in my face too much. And when it was, there was very little coming in, so I could actually breathe well. So anyway, by the time we got out to the Gulf, like we were already out in the water, and it's cool because, see, when you're flying these opened aircraft, you don't have a lot to go by. The only thing you have a heading indicator. You've got you have an altimeter, but that's really it.
Yeah,
the only thing, yeah, they're very, very basic. Now, I will say this: the way he could tell where the wind was going, he had a streamer above his head, and what that streamer does, yeah, exactly, very much old school. And so basically, what that streamer does, it basically let him know, okay, the wind's going in this direction, but we had to take off into the wind, not downwind, because see, the prop was actually in the back. It was not in the front of this aircraft. It was in the back.
Right.
And so, because it was in the back, we had to take off into the wind. Now, if it was in the front, you take off quite the reverse. You take off downwind. But yeah, we took off.
Meaning the wind would be going from behind you. You'd be going with the wind, the same direction as the wind, right?
Yep. When you go downwind, you're going in the same direction of the wind. When you're going into the wind, you go the opposite direction of the wind. So,
awesome.
So we took off into the wind, and I mean to tell you, like the experience of climbing was just, picture something, picture you're sitting in the seat, but it somewhat drops out from underneath you, but you're climbing at the same time, and you can feel the climb at the same time. You could really, really feel those G-forces as you got up into the air. It was amazing. I'm telling you, it was very
awesome.
amazing.
And of course, we never have
Thomas,
that. All these usual aircraft, you don't feel it like in the commercial.
Right.
So it's tough to know.
Right.
Even when you're going right and left, you're kind of like, are we turning? What's happening? But I bet you could feel everything that.
When I flew in the Bonanza, you can't tell when you're turning.
No, you can't.
Right? You can't tell.
Not even in the glider. You can't either.
Oh, really? That's
so you couldn't tell you was turning, only climbing, basically.
No. I could only tell that I was climbing, or that we were climbing or descending. Like I couldn't even. Right. I couldn't even feel the bank at all. I couldn't feel it at all. Like,
Thomas,
he had to
tell us a little bit about what are the controls like on that? Did you get to check that out?
I certainly did.
There
is a single control bar.
There with him?
Okay, so there is a single control bar, and see, there is no yaw in the air. And so basically, to give you guys a bit of what pitch, roll, and yaw is, if you were to take your hand and if you were to simply tilt it up and down on the wrist, that's pitch. If you were to twist your wrist left and right, that's roll. If you were to move your hands side by side like a fishtail, that's yaw. Okay? So there is no yaw in the air in these gliders. The only thing you've got is pitch and roll. And so basically, the way we did this is it's a bit the opposite. You actually have to push the control bar in to go up, pull it back out to go down, because again, the propeller's in the back. And so, like when we were banking left and right, I barely could land. Now, of course, when you're doing sharp turns, you're going to feel that. But when you're doing your average banking turns, you're not going to feel a single thing.
Did that bar move pretty freely? I mean, was it easy to?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, but the thing about it is, you barely move the control bar. You don't really move it that dramatically. You barely move that control bar. So yeah.
Now, did you get a chance
pedals?
to do it yourself?
Say again.
Did you get a chance to actually do it
get
yourself? Like, did he let you fly it a little bit?
Yes, he did actually. He told me he was
Nice.
like, he actually took his hands off the control bar and he like just maybe for about 10, 15 seconds.
Yeah.
And he basically was telling me through the comms, okay, pull it, push it in, pull it out, level it. And he, and I'm not bragging when I say this comes from a real life pilot. He told me, he was like, man, you've got some of the best control I've ever seen, on the controls and whatnot. Mm-hmm. And so yeah. I thought that was very gratifying and
what about the pedals,
very flattering
Thomas?
to hear.
What kind of pedals was there? Obviously, pedals might be a little bit different considering, but
there are no pedals.
What was they like?
There are no pedals. No pedals. The only thing you have is the only thing you have is a bar down like below that controls the water rudder. That's the only thing you've got.
So you just have one bar in there to control your stuff.
To control your pitch and roll, and another bar to control the water rudder. And you have a little lever down, a foot lever down there that controls your throttle. And that's really about it. I mean, this thing is as basic as it gets.
Okay, so you control the throttle with your foot.
Yes, you control the throttle with your foot. Mm-hmm.
Very neat. Very neat. Let me ask you, when you guys took off, you said he went about 40 knots or so, 40, 50 knots, miles per hour?
No, miles per hour. No, miles per hour. It
not
was
knots.
40. No.
40 miles per hour. Did he say how fast does them can go? Like, is that the top speed?
Yes, it is the top speed. You can only get up to about 40, 45 miles per hour in those.
That's really cool. That is cool. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've really it's a hang glider and a boat is what it is. It's just a hang glider and a boat with a motor.
Basically, what the pilot said is basically just a glorified hang glider. That's right.
Now, what about this one was strictly water, right? Or could it come off the water?
Oh no, it could land both on the water and the runway. But when you're landing on the runway, you've got to have a little bit of skill with it because some of the wheels don't go. They all don't go straight like a regular plane. One of them goes cross to the other, so you really, really have to have skill in landing it on the runway.
Did you actually get to land on water? Did that feel any different, if so?
Oh, yep. We got to land on the water. Oh, when we land on the water, it's like, I mean, you feel it whenever you land on the water.
You did a touch and go, I thought, didn't you?
Yes, we did. Yes.
Tell us about that. Tell us about the touch and go.
It was wonderful. We splashed down. The moment we splashed down, only a few seconds, we were pretty much back in the air.
Did you get wet on the touch and go?
No, not really. Not really. Yeah.
Well darn.
I actually didn't get wet a little, and really I was flying bare feet, and underneath your feet. See, you of course have the floats, but when you put your feet down, you actually have a splash guard underneath your feet to keep your feet from getting wet. And so yeah.
So barely any water at all then.
Barely any water.
I'm assuming that the thing doesn't, like, where you sit, it's not like real low down onto the water, so to speak. It's kind of, you're up a little bit off that water.
Yep, yeah. Well, the thing about the seat's up a little bit. It's high. Like for me, I could easily stretch my legs a little bit to get down.
Yeah.
I wasn't having to completely cramp myself into the seat at all. It was pretty comfortable.
Now the speaking of about the yoke and stuff, this is all done by wires. You want to explain that to a little bit to people so they can understand kind of the difference of flying one of them compared to your regular plane. This is all wires that run guide I don't know what kind of wires you call it, but explain that a little bit. I know you checked that out too.
Well, there were cables that went from the control bar, and that basically controlled the elevator and also controlled the wing. Because there are no ailerons on this glider. The only thing you do tilt the wing to bank a specific direction. And I think you also tilt the wing up and down. It also acts as an elevator as well. But like I said, they're inverse to regular aircraft. You have to push in to go up, pull back to go down, I believe.
So he can move either wing, right? The left wing or the right wing to
No,
to do what he
it's
wants
just
to.
one wing. It's one wing. He tilts it to the left or to the right.
Well, yeah,
Or one
I guess I should have said left side or right side because it's one wing all the way across, but it just tilts basically from either one way or the other.
Say again.
You can tilt the wing one way or the other, to the right or to the left.
Yes. You pretty much do that. Basically, yeah, that's about as simple as it gets. I
Yeah,
mean,
this is literally, back to basics. I mean, because this is something we've never been able to, I've never explored in the sim. I've never done much gliding or ultralight and never landed on water. I wonder, is there an aircraft, like that for the sim? Or similar, I guess?
It's funny you mentioned that. Yes, there is one stable aircraft for the sim that I have found for this. It's a little different. It's not a Signet 2. I looked around. There is no Signet 2 in the simulator whatsoever. None. So I looked around and I found something very similar. It's a Streak Shadow microlight. And this thing, it's a little bit more power. It can go higher. And because it's lighter, it can go a little faster, and it can maneuver a little better than the Signet 2. But the engine has less horsepower on the Streak Shadow than the Signet 2. Engine is about a 40 horsepower engine. But it can go very fast, about 100 miles per hour.
Wow, so I guess we could
And
use
I
that as a
remember-
pilot and land on all sorts with that. That'd be cool.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Now
I
me
remember
personally,
my friend had a what they call them. It's basically he ordered. It's a long, quite maybe 10 years ago. It was they call them ultralights, I think. And so he ordered it. They send it to you, and it's you got to put it together, and that really
Oh, it's
was
a
like a
kit.
bicycle. Yeah, and it had a regular seat you sit down on, but the wheels were like bicycle wheels. That's pretty much what they was, and that was pretty cool too. Pretty similar. Only difference, it didn't go on the water. You definitely wouldn't
No.
wanna try to put that on
no,
the water,
you
but
definitely would not wish to land on the water with those. But
I
yeah,
think it's definitely a different way of flying, different experience. You can't compare it
It
with
is.
anything else.
no, you can't. And
Would you do it again?
yes, oh, absolutely. I would definitely do that again.
Do you plan on
I
ever
would-
doing it again?
Well, I mean, John already knows I'm fixing to come up there and live with him. But whenever I'm back down here in Florida, absolutely.
What does if someone wanted to do something like that, roughly what would it cost them to do something like that?
For me, if they were down here in Florida, Jeff charges I think he charges maybe $100 or so for a 30-minute flight, $200 for a 40-minute flight, maybe $300 for an hour flight.
Would you do an hour?
Yep, I did an hour flight.
Really cool, man. Really cool.
So I guess what sort of fuel do they have? I guess I mean, like it's got to be pretty basic.
The fuel it doesn't really take a lot of fuel. It mainly, I would say, it probably takes maybe 30, 40 gallons at most, I would think.
Yeah.
Did he say what kind? Like if it takes like regular fuel on that kind of engine?
I think it takes premium fuel, some kind of a premium fuel for 4 strokes.
I don't even know if it would even take a 30-gallon. That's quite a bit, unless the tank's underneath you guys.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure. I'll have to ask him the next time I come around, but I'm pretty sure it doesn't take a lot of fuel at all.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But yeah, no, that's really cool. Because I mean, that's the one thing I don't know how it works for like sighted people in the sim. You know, I guess they kind of get an idea of what the, well, you know, like it obviously is different, but they can see a kind of perception of the plane's movements and up and down, and like you would get, especially if you're in a good graphics setup, then you'd feel kind of like you were part of it. But you know, to actually do something like that, you know, you really get an idea of the feelings of these things as they move.
Oh, absolutely.
Well, and you know, like Thomas said, you know, being on that is you know, it's different because, you know, when I got to fly in the Bonanza, it's not a car, but it's you know, it's you sit down in the seat like you would in a car, and you know, obviously I mean, there's a lot different about it. There's just a lot of things that's different, but
It's a pretty stable plane, pretty enclosed, and
yeah,
yeah.
And even that Bonanza, I couldn't tell when I was turning. I got to you know, do the yoke, and go up and down a little, and you can't really tell that you're turning. You can tell that you're going down. You can tell you're going up, but obviously because you're slanted, your seat's not level because you got one end either up higher than you or lower than you.
Exactly.
Turning wise, you're not going to know. Like even, you know, the trainer, the guy that I flew with, he was a trainer, and he said, you know, picture being in the sky and it's blue all around you. There's nothing up above, you know, nothing for you to use as markers.
You can see how they get disorientated.
You're not going to know. Yeah, you're not going to know what direction you're going without.
You ain't gonna
having
know.
the compass and all that.
Having a
so
GPS,
it was fun.
having a
it was
yeah.
It was a lot of fun and a big difference from what Thomas did there.
Yeah, because I've seen incidents
yeah.
where they've ended up nearly going upside down, and you know, you kind of think, well, how do you manage that? Like, surely you know what you're doing, but when you actually do something like that, you really get a feel for, you know, actually, it's probably a lot easier than you think to get it to a position where it's a bit out of control because you didn't feel it.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. You can't feel.
Yeah.
That's why pilots are always trained to fly by their instruments.
Yeah.
Always.
And it can happen so quick. So quick. You could be upside down before you know it, and you're flying upside down, you know.
Pretty much.
I mean, I guess the only thing you're going to know, the only thing it's going to tell you that you're going to have that indicator is gravity. I mean, gravity's going to let you know that something's going on, you know.
I mean, the bigger ones have got like a horizon gauge where you can see the horizon and you can see where your plane is, and you can try and use that for your reference. But even so, that I know there's been jet crashes and general aviation crashes where they just, you know, there's a term for it in aviation, I forget what it is, spatial disorientation or something, where you just get completely lost as to where the ground is where you are.
Yeah.
So that's the reason why, you know, like even I will say this, like last night, just last night, it was in that Airbus that just didn't fly well, and when I stalled, he turned off the autopilot, took a hold of the stick, tried my best to get control of it. It just was not happening. I mean, the aircraft was coming down. It was coming down like pretty much, you know, like a big meteor. I mean, because that's just what it was. And it was just, it's amazing what will happen, because like if I were to be in a real aircraft like that and not feel it, and then all of a sudden feel that, wait a minute, I'm dropping, you know, that would be, you know, it would be pretty tragic there.
Yeah, I mean, I guess for the future, we can only hope that, you know, these things like fs2020 in the future become accessible, you know, with months, years of work. It might be possible for us, because they have, you know, really good flight models, better than P3D. we might actually be able to fly these kinds of things and feel it as well,
Oh, absolutely. Well, I will say, I will say this, regarding fs2020. And it's just like John says, when they say accessibility, they're not meaning visual accessibility. They're meaning, okay, it's going to be accessible for people that have not flown a plane to fly a plane. They've made it like that. I will say that, there are alternatives I know for sure you can get for prepared. You can get better modeling. What they've done in fs2020, you can come close to in prepared if you really want to. But it will require some money. It will require some patience and all that kind of thing.
I mean, they've got, like you said, they're giving you some better quality as far as they can give you the better sounds. But if you want good sounds, you don't have to say, well, I'm not going to be, I can't get it because I don't got, Microsoft 2020. If you want good sounds, you're either going to pay for it or you're going to, unless you know how to do all that work for it, whatever. But there's things we can do to come close to it, I think. Real traffic. We can't do what Microsoft's doing, but we can get traffic we just can't interact with. We can't use that to go by schedules and stuff, but I'm happy with what we got. I mean, Declan, when you look at it, if it's not doable, if it's not to your standard, which it's not going to be to my standard. I can already tell you that.
Oh no,
just too
I don't even think we're going to be able to use the thing. Yeah.
And here's my thing,
it's cool,
and I don't
right?
mind spending money, but
yeah, exactly. Like we can get a good sim as it is. I would like to access this and be able to have access to the instruments and fly without tramp and fly, like general aviation. Just take it up myself and actually be able to fly it around just completely, just with the stick without any software, and maybe that will happen. We got a really good sim as it is, even if that doesn't happen for a good while.
Yeah, and we got I think we got a lot of good things happening that seem like are really starting.
We've got TFM.
Yeah, the TFM
for the moment.
That are coming. They're looking at an alternative to FS Tramp, which we'll talk about in a bit on the podcast. But yeah, so we got some exciting stuff, and it's kind of this thing. Look, if they're not going to bring it to us, we'll do it ourselves. It might take a bit longer, but we'll probably do it better than them anyway.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Because you know what, we've got everybody. They're not just doing it without looking at what you say, what I say, what Thomas said, what he said, she said. Everybody's able to really, narrow things down to, hey, this could be better because we could do this, or sound wise, feature wise.
Yeah.
All of us know what works now, and we know what doesn't. So.
Exactly.
I've spent a decent amount of money, and I don't mind the fact that I have, and I'm definitely not just going to put that in the drawer, so to speak, and say, okay, I'll move on to the next sim. I'm just not going to do that.
No.
I've got a system that I use. We all do, and it works. It works.
Yep, and it works.
Absolutely, yeah. We've invested so much. All right, well, thanks, Thomas. That was a great interview, really good insight into the glided stuff, because I've never touched any of that in the sim, and maybe I should have a look at it. I know it comes with a trike, and I'll take a look at the aircraft that you were talking about, and a bit of a chat as well
absolutely.
in the future, and what we can expect with it.
Yeah, we appreciate you coming on here and sharing that experience with us and everybody else, and that's what we do here. That's what this podcast is about.
Yeah, if you got an experience you want to chat about, drop us an email. It's not just,
Absolutely.
flying on a computer. This podcast is about the real world as well.
Yeah, if you've done
Exactly.
something, let us know. You can email us, BVI Pilots Podcast, and that is podcast with just a T on the end, not S. Someone had asked me to email, and they're like, well, I tried. And well, if you put an S on the end, it's not going to work.
No, there's only one podcast.
But BVI
Yeah,
Pilots
multiple.
Podcast at gmail.com.
Yeah.
We're also working on our website, you guys, bvipilots.com. You can go there. There'll be contact links there, and there's a lot more stuff going to happen there. The podcast to be there, and a lot of other stuff here in the near future. So
Absolutely.
we appreciate it, Thomas.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thanks, Thomas. And
Yep,
we
yep,
will see
yep,
you
no
in the
problem.
next segment to talk about a few other things that have happened. See you very soon.
Yep.
And welcome back to the next segment of the BVI Pilots podcast. So, hope you enjoyed the interview with Thomas. Great to have him on. And now we're going to talk about a few things from the past couple of weeks that have happened. The first one is we just wanted to talk a little bit about the community in general, kind of tied in with fs2020, and just warn people because, you know,
Yeah.
I don't know how to say this, but there's some people who are, well, they pick up on a bit of information and they see it as fact when it doesn't necessarily lead to a logical conclusion, right?
Here's the fact for you guys. The fact is, don't listen to the first thing you hear, because I'm telling you now, no, I'm not throwing daggers at Microsoft, but it's definitely not ready for you to go out and spend 100 and some, whatever it is. I don't even know.
Absolutely.
It's not
Yeah.
cheap. But don't, like you're saying, we're trying to warn you not to waste your money, basically.
Yeah, I'm not going to bring up
It's-
individual names because it's a professional kind of podcast. I'm not going to start. But what I am going to say is, we know someone, well, there is a member of the community who is in the alpha. They have
The true
tried
level.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's no accessibility. They have said this, because they can, well, now it's out in the public domain. It's been, videos on YouTube. They have said, look, it's not accessible. There's nothing there. The menus don't even work. I've seen certain people say, oh, well, multi-crew experience is going to be available. These add-ons are going to be available. Well, A, you're not going to be able to
It's not-
access the menus, and B,
Yeah.
the only add-on that we know of that can
I
actually land on an ILS properly, or do an RNAV approach or whatever approach it is that you have to do if there's no ILS is FS Tramp. That's the only one so far.
Yeah, FS Tramp. And I can tell you, I watched a video about a week ago. I should have saved that link. I might look for it later and put it on our bvipilots.com. Anyway, what he was saying is so many people misunderstood what was being said about accessibility. I think what they meant out of most of it with being accessible is what they're saying is anybody. It don't matter if you've ever flown a plane or not. It's accessible enough for anyone that's able to fly or not fly to start that sim up and be able to fly. That's what they was meaning by accessibility. I mean, the guy went down like a whole list of things, and it just all made sense. It's accessible. You could be a brand new person, never flown a plane in your life, and it's going to be accessible
Yeah,
for
just
you
because
to
it's
fly
a
it
word
because of
accessible,
the
it's not
features.
exclusive to screen readers. Yeah, and because
Right,
and I know
it
there's
doesn't
low
say
vision.
screen
It's
reader
accessible
accessible.
to colorblind. It's accessible to these types of people. Doesn't There's no evidence of it being accessible to us. We've reached out to Microsoft. The best way to reach out to Microsoft is things like on their forums, the community posts. I know people have been emailing the Microsoft CEO. I mean, come on, he's not gonna
That's
read
not going to
that.
get you nowhere, guys.
I'm sorry, but he's
That's
never
not
gonna
going to
read
get you
that.
nowhere.
Yeah.
And think about, and that puts us on to the next thing here, Deck. Think about what you say to people, because it affects the whole community, or it can. It can. We don't want that. Nobody wants that. But emailing a CEO for something so general, that CEO probably has no idea other than knowing that the sim was created. He probably doesn't know all that other, techie stuff. He don't know.
I mean, yeah,
So
and
why
then
email him?
the thing is with these big companies, right? We might get one chance to actually get accessibility. And the thing is, if you go posting saying, this is what we need, try this screen reader or that screen reader, I use these add-ons, blah, 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 I think you should do this and that, and I want this. Because I've seen, certain people have written really great posts outlining what we need and what we do. And then a few individuals have written emails to the BVI email address
Yeah.
and things with crazy long things asking for help with this and that and talking about things that really aren't related, and it's just, I guess, this idea that the blind community is pretty small as it is, and I would love to be able to just speak to Lockheed or Microsoft and say, hey, add accessibility, and they go, yeah, cool, let's do it with you. But and I wish it was that way. It should be that way, but it isn't, because this is the real world.
It's just not. Yeah. It's just not going. It's reality. It's reality. You see it, I see it, and most people see it.
Yeah.
But there's a few that don't, and that's why we're saying, don't waste your time. Don't throw your integrity out the door like that by sending some foolish message that is never going to do anything. It's unfortunate. I want to see it. I'm like you, man. I want to see these things happen, but that's just not the way it's going to work.
Yeah,
It's just not going.
and I hope in a few years' time we've been able to work with Microsoft or some company and make this accessible. If not, then we go with what we've got and we carry on. But if we could, that would be fantastic. It's just writing demanding emails and things, and viewing yourself as being entitled to it. Yes, we are, but as I say, these companies, they are huge corporations. Getting them to listen,
Huge,
finding, if we could find an individual on the team who really cared about accessibility, that's great. But finding them and things, that's the issue.
Finding them, that's the challenge. And like you said, you're talking about multi-billion-dollar companies that they're making billions of dollars. And the reality of it is, we are a small community when it comes to doing the sim thing. We're not even 10% of that community, probably.
Oh yeah.
We're probably like 4%.
Like, I'm not saying I don't want
working
people to
on
be
it.
hopeful
I mean-
and like that, because I do, and
Right.
I don't want people to get
Yeah.
down about it. All I'm saying is I've seen people saying, fs2020 or this add-on and that add-on is the best thing and you need to get it and it's going to be accessible. All we're saying is just be sensible and I guess do a bit of research and kind of ask around, because this is your money,
and sit back and wait a little bit.
Yeah, these people have bought so much software, and I see this quite a bit. Someone maybe discovers aviation, buys all this software, and then says, "Oh, this is too difficult. I'm not bothered." And it's money. It's your money. Why? I don't know why you just throw it away.
And, like you said, we're not throwing names and we're not faulting nobody, but there's one out there that bought a whole bunch of stuff.
Yeah,
And then
people are buying
saying,
fs2020
"How
on
do I-"
Steam, Premium Deluxe, and I'm like,
and they're saying,
you're
"Hey,
wasting
John,
your
how
money."
do we, emailing the podcast, and they're saying, how do I use this stuff? We can't tell you.
We can't, if it's not accessible, we
don't
can't
know.
tell you. Yeah.
Like,
If I could make it accessible for you, dude, I would. I'd waive the one, but I don't have one. I just got to go with what we got.
We don't have an answer right now. You got to sit back, guys. You got to sit back and just be calm and just wait and just look around you before you just dive in head first. You might be jumping in a very shallow pool of nothing but garbage. I mean, honestly, you just don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is a very opinions-based thing. I know people, I'll post sometimes and say, "Oh, I found a new add-on. I really like it," and someone will come back and say, "Oh, this looks absolute rubbish," and that's perfectly fine.
Yeah.
Like, that's good. At least you're forming your own opinion. Don't just go to one person and ask them and then buy a bunch of stuff. Ask around, research it. If there's a demo, anything, try it out. Like, because as much as I'll help you, I don't want to get blamed and then you say, "Hey, I spent 500 quid on all these add-ons and I don't actually like this." Like, well, what do you want me to do about that?
And this is what we will put on the table right now as a fact, not a guess, not we asked somebody else. It's a fact that you're not going to start that sim and just have accessibility. It's not there yet. So
yeah, right. Unless a miracle happens in the next 9 days, which is highly unlikely.
Yeah. And we told you we're going to bring you what's facts to the podcast. That's a fact. Don't waste your money, and just, I'm not saying don't buy it at all ever, but wait a little bit. Let some more stuff get figured out.
If you're going to get it, at least get it on Game Pass, so you can just try it out for a month, and if you don't like it, say, "Hey, oh well, that's fine." But just dump in that money on it.
We're just trying to help you from saving your money.
Absolutely. Because I know some of the blind community aren't working and stuff, and they're just throwing money at it. It's like, dude, what are you doing? Wow.
I mean, we could just be like, well, let's not even say nothing and be like, well, we don't care, but we do care. We don't want to see people wasting money and then get something and like not be able to use it. That would suck.
Yeah.
So just be careful, guys. Be careful. One more thing I'm going to touch on as well, just real quick. We want you guys to email us. Anytime you got a question, we like to get emails and we try to answer every email that we can. But guys, please don't spam us. And when I mean spam, I mean sending an email that's the size of a book full of stuff that we don't know what to tell you. Like, we don't have an answer for it.
Yeah, I mean, this is something I've said.
Can you explain that better? Maybe.
I would say, look, I have spent probably a few years since I really learned about Flight Sim and learned, the add-ons and kind of went on from there, trying to help people if they got a question. And if the question is like, there's been a few people, right, in the last few months who've come into the community and they've been really great because they've gone in, they've figured stuff out mostly for themselves. They've watched videos, they've been proactive because there are videos and tutorials out there. They've gone and looked them up and found these things, and they might have a question that's a pretty obscure thing that they wouldn't have known, and that's perfectly fine. If you're sending emails or messages with pages and pages of questions and you haven't got a clue, I'm sorry to say, but maybe Flight Sim or maybe this type of Flight Sim just isn't for you, because I hate to say it, but you do have to have a level of kind of understanding of a PC and the screen reader and add-ons.
Yeah, or if anything, man, take all that stuff and break it down and put it into some groups and start with one thing out of the whole bundle and say, okay, I need to learn how to do that. Man, I've seen people they'll sit there and they'll buy this sim and then they get their money back and they'll go buy the other one. And then they're like, well, how do I use it? Well, I don't know, because we didn't use it. We can't tell you. Just, be smart about it.
Yeah, right. I mean, we didn't get to this position of, I can fly on VATSIM with Tramp in overnight. It probably took months and years to get here to know.
Oh my gosh.
The best things to do. So yeah, I mean, it is tough. The stuff we do with Tramp is tough.
Even
can be
stuff that I still do. I'll still make mistakes, and I'm like, oh, I did that wrong.
Yeah.
But between all these videos out of your YouTube, out of the BVI.
Yeah, there's a lot of us on
pilots,
YouTube, a lot of streams.
There's
Yeah.
several streams of how to do stuff. So, just
Yeah,
try to,
I guess you got to
keep
be
the
proactive
emails-
and watch videos and learn as you go. If you make a mistake, well, so be it. It's only a sim.
and yeah, exactly. And try to keep the email, a decent size. Don't make it where we've got to like literally go over it 3 or 4 times because we're like, okay, wait, what did that say?
Yeah.
Like
Right.
don't have like 12 paragraphs. We want to be able to look at the email and then say, okay, we want to be able to respond to you. With the email that long, we're not going to be able to respond to you.
Yeah.
So, just try to be thoughtful when it comes to that stuff.
All right, so the next thing on the list was a golden cursor profiles for FS Tramp.
Golden cursor.
Yeah.
Spotlight's on you, my friend.
It's a cool
I use
add-on.
it, but I'm still learning.
I know. I used
like
it previously, and I used it in P3D, and then just stopped using it after a bit. And I don't really know why, but essentially what it is, of course, Tramp lags quite a bit. The reason being that it takes up a lot of resources on your PC if you've got a low-end PC, and it has a map, and it's just not very well optimized. It's the graphics and the map part of it that really makes it lag. So what that means is if you have a higher end PC, it's going to be a little bit better. If you have if you turn some of the map off, it's going to be a bit better. But at the end of the day, there's always going to be some lag. And so a guy who came into the community, Andy, I think his name is, and he actually has a video demonstrating this on his Elbri. I think it was, I'd have to check. It was something like Andy Blind Simmer, I think it was called. But when we find the link, I'm sure we can put it in the description of the podcast because he made a really good video demonstrating it. But the idea is basically you save mouse positions. So you route NVDA's mouse to the position on the screen. Maybe it's your plan button, maybe it's your routing tree view, or your edit boxes for the speed and altitude and things. And you save them. So then when you press a hotkey, brings up a list of all your mouse positions. You choose one and it'll move the mouse to that exact position. Still a bit of lag, but obviously you haven't got to scroll around. And so for people who might struggle on VATSIM and think, this is really tough to comply with all the instructions, maybe this will help you out. I mean, I don't know if you've found it's helped you, Johnny. I definitely have over the past few days.
Oh, I love it. I use it on some of the airplanes on the A2As that Jason's done.
Mm-hmm.
So when I'm in the hangar, I've got several, probably at least a dozen of different keys that I've set up. And yeah, you got to have the patience of moving the mouse around until you find that certain spot, and then you mark it. But it's worth it. It is worth it to me.
Oh yeah,
I love it.
I mean, at least with Tramp, you haven't got to move the mouse, but it's a way for us to do things without sighted help, right? With especially the A2A stuff, because you can, you can mark stuff, so it's going to be right there.
Exactly. I mean, honestly, I would tell anybody that, might get into the simming, if you use NVDA, you really are to try to lean toward learning Golden Cursor. There's not a lot to learn in it, really. I mean, it's pretty, basically you put the cursor where you want it. Once you do, you just NVDA Control L will bring up a list of the hotkeys you already got. Or, well, not really hotkeys, but markers, I guess is better said. And to create a new one, you just do NVDA Shift L.
And give a name.
That will say, hey, give it a name.
Yeah.
I
mean, the trickiest part is actually finding where to put the mouse like the A2A. So a golden cursor itself actually is pretty simple. But yeah, a really cool thing to make Tramp a little bit less laggy.
You gotta have the titles on. What's it called?
Is it the
when you gotta have the?
It's so that NVDA reads the
tooltips
tooltips in the A2A.
Yeah, you gotta have that on.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Of course,
worth
some of
it.
the stuff
Try
we
it out, people.
now
I'm
have with
telling you.
TFM, which is cool, so we don't need Golden Cursor as much with the A2A, but there's still the odd thing
Yeah.
that it can be helpful with A2A as well as Tramp. Tramp is really cool.
Well, like for example, I bought a J Cub, which is a pretty common plane in the
yeah,
A2A for
she's
training.
not in TFM yet.
And I didn't look yet with my mouse to see if they're labeled, if the buttons are labeled or not.
I'm sure
If
they are. There might be
that'd
something there.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, try it out at least. Give it a shot. It will make your life a little easier, I think, in the simming community.
Yeah, and that leads us on nicely to the next thing, which is that I'm just going to touch on this because obviously there's no real sort of news as such on this, and next week there's going to be more. But the guy that I was talking about, Andy and Jason, of course, who we know from TFM, are going to team up actually.
Yes.
And look at long term. So this is long term. I don't want to say this and people go, "Oh, this is going to happen within a week," because this is, not the case.
It's going to be a while.
Yeah,
right,
and it will be a case of testing it and adding things as we go, just like TFM has done over the past year. But they are going to aim to create an autopilot solution that means we don't have to use Tramp with, Navigraph integration, so we can fly procedures and all the features you would see in Tramp. Essentially, but in a more accessible format, and even possibly a taxiing system. Now, as I say, the first thing is probably quite a lot easier than the last thing, and so certainly the last thing will take probably longer, and this is not overnight, as I say, but it's a really exciting project. And as I said earlier, if things like fs2020 turn out to be a disappointment, at least we got this. We got people in our community. I said on the Discord the other day, we need these people, these intelligent coders, because us pilots, we're so demanding. We want the best software. We want to fly as realistically as possible. So it's really great to have these
I will
people.
admit, sometimes us pilots can probably be a pain in the butt sometimes because, I even myself, sometimes I'm like, man, why can't we have this? Oh, that's not good enough, but it all comes down to flying, man. When you're flying, you want the best that you can get.
No, it's great because Jason's pretty much
didn't
been
know-
a one-man team with, a bit of help from a few people,
and the
Tyler
thing
and
is,
Jake and stuff.
Tramp is one file. That's it.
Yeah, a couple
one
of
file that
DLLs,
does
that's
all
all
that.
it is. 2 DLLs, that makes up
That's
Tramp.
all it is.
Yeah, and the Navigraph folder.
So it's like, man, I'm excited. I'm excited. I'm not in a hurry, but I'm excited.
Yeah, it's going to be great. I mean, we know Tramp works. We can do it. We can do VAT simplified and things with Tramp. But just being able to do things quicker and easier and having a cleaner interface without all this clutter will be great.
I think there's more
Absolutely.
motivation there than there is on the Tramp side. And I'm not knocking on the developer of Tramp, but I just don't think there's as much motivation.
Oh
on that
yeah,
side
I mean
of
the
it
Tramp
as
developer,
there is.
I think was pretty surprised we used his software in the first place, and he's, obviously I've worked with him over the past few months, and we've done a few bits and got some issues sorted and made it better, but at the end of the day, his interface is never going to be as we would like it precisely because he caters not just to the blind community. We're just a little subsection of who he wants to reach. I have no idea.
Do you think did he create Tramp for maybe beginner people that just wasn't able to do all that themselves?
I mean, Tramp back in the day used to be FS Navigator a long time ago, and it became Tramp. I mean, the most cited simmers use Tramp. I mean, not many of them do, to be fair. I don't think many people use it in that community, but those who do use it primarily as a map. They use it to see what's nearby, where they're flying over, just as a little dockable window. They don't really use the autopilot, I don't think, because, of course, they've got their payware planes in their FMS. Why would they need Tramp?
Right.
So we sort of just found this software, and it, coincidentally, it was accessible enough that we could do what we needed to do. None of us have settled on it by sort of choice. It's been kind of necessity because there's nothing better.
Yeah. That's amazing that it got found like that. That's very interesting.
Yeah.
But That doesn't mean, guys, to go and start, throwing a million questions at Jason and the new guy. Like, give them time, let them do what they're doing, and when they start doing it, they're going to ask us for feedback, like you do with anything else. And then we start telling them, hey, try this or try that.
Absolutely, yeah. There is a new add-on development channel on the BVI Pilots Discord where discussion of that is going to happen, and obviously there'll be direct messaging each other as well. Obviously, the early stages are going to be mostly waffle to us pilots who won't understand a word of what they're saying, because they'll be talking about code and how they can get this going. So for us pilots, it's mainly going to be firstly just helping out with a list of kind of features that they want, which they've mostly got, I think, but helping out with the design process, and then as they go through that, and when they come out with a kind of prototype, I guess the first edition, we will of course be able to test. Yeah,
I think the design is going to be similar, not just like it, but I think it's going to be similar to TFM. Similar.
Yeah, so actually what they're doing is merging TFM with this, so that all future TFM versions will feature this. Obviously Jason's converting TFM at the moment, but they're basically getting together, so we're going to keep the TFM that we all know, but the new features will basically be a part of TFM. So this project that started out a year ago was a thing that read cities
it's like
nearby.
A new menu, basically.
Perhaps, yeah, a new menu, a new interface, and they've said, look, it's going to have the same kind of functionality as Tramp. It's not going to be wildly different, but the idea is that the interface is going to be the massive thing. How easy is it for us to do things?
Graphics will be gone.
Yes, finally.
Goodbye graphics.
Yeah, goodbye lag. Goodbye crappy menus. And
man, you know what? I'm going to put a copy of that in my safe. I don't ever want to lose it.
Right, yeah. Going back to Tramp after we'd use something like that, I imagine we'd be like, how did we ever manage with this Tramp? How did we ever manage with it?
Yeah.
But
it takes a lot of patience, right? I'll tell you that.
You manage with what you got. Like, I remember managing with FSX Pilot and thinking, well, this is okay. And now I go back to FSX Pilot for flying jets, and I'm like, oh, this is horrible. How did I ever deal with this? So it's like the next best thing comes along.
Man.
But it's really great, that Andy and Jason are getting together. I know Tyler Roddick's been helping out a bit with TFM, and maybe he will do some stuff and all this good stuff. But yeah, I got to say, we said it in the last episode, TFM is just has been one of the most amazing projects I've seen in the community since probably since IYP. TFM has been the most amazing project. If this all works out,
and it's. And I've said it too. I've said it a million times. I know you've said it. I've said it. It's, this isn't just somebody building a program. This is somebody that's got the heart for the program. They're not just doing it because they need to make money or whatever. They're doing it because they have that motivation, that heart to actually understand that, man, this is what we deal with every day. Well, I've got the skill to make it better, so I'm going to make it better. And that's what these guys are doing. So, thumbs up to Jason. Thumbs up to Andy. Thumbs up to, I think you said his name's Tyler, right?
Yeah, Tyler's helped out with some TFM stuff in the past.
I know there's a long road ahead of us, but I do want to thank you, for speaking for all of us, for me, you, and the rest of the community. I'm saying thank you because
absolutely, yeah.
It's been amazing, and it's going to be better.
And so next week, or the week after, we're going to figure it out. Hopefully next week, we're going to have Jason back on along with Andy in our next interview, and we're gonna just have them tell us about their ideas, what they envisage. We're obviously going to give them a bit of time to go through this kind of design process and see exactly what they want to do. Because like I say, they're going to get together and talk some coding waffle about how this is all going to work, and we're just going to be like, yeah, okay, fair enough. You do what you think is best with the coding. We'll suck it up and go with it. So we'll have them on and have a chat about what they envisage for the future of Well, I guess it's still called TFM, but maybe when this comes out, it'll have to be changed because it won't just be talking flight monitor. It'll be flipping flying the plane for us. So, um,
Yeah, yeah, and maybe every now and then we can continue to bring these guys on when there's big changes being made.
yeah, as they
That
go
way
through the whole process, that'd be really
people,
cool. Every couple
that
of
way
months
they're
or
hearing
something.
it from the developer. They're saying,
Yeah,
it's not one of them deals like, oh well, come on, John, you told me that it did this. You know, let's, maybe that might be an ongoing thing we can do. But
absolutely. So the next few things on the list are a little sort of sound immersion add-ons that we've found over the past couple of weeks, and we'll both talk about one. I know Johnny has found Sim Sound, and I'm going to talk a bit about smart cars with Fly Virtual, but also the premium feature of smart cars. But I'll let Johnny do Sim Sound because I hadn't heard of this. This is a pretty cool add-on.
yeah, so basically, SimSound, and this is what I like about it, is it's a standalone program, meaning you don't have to unzip this directory and put it here, put it there. You unzip it, you run the executable, and as soon as and even if you run the sim before, like, say you run the program first, you forgot to run the sim first, it doesn't matter. It knows when the sim's running, and if it's not running, it'll say waiting on sim. And then as soon as you get the sim on, you get your plane, your plane set or whatever. As soon as you open that door, it starts playing the sound of people boarding. You can also edit it. You can go in there and you can edit every sound individually if you chose to in the program. It'll show you the sound card. You can make I forget what they call it. I want to say butt bumper or something like that, B bumpers or something, and it's supposed to be for like the speakers that give you more of that roaring that would be underneath your seat, like if you're in the actual sim. So you can even adjust the volume on all that. So you get all your basic cruise sounds. You get the flight attendant coming on giving you the safety announcement. She'll tell you about when it's time to put on your seatbelt. When we get to cruising altitude, she'll come on and she'll give you a message about getting ready to go around and pass out food or drinks, whatever. Tells you about, when we're getting ready to, well, actually, as soon as we start doing our, descent, she'll come on there and say, okay, we're starting our descent, blah, blah, blah. Even when you land, it knows where you land. So it'll say, we just arrived in Miami. We want to thank you guys or whatever. It's a really cool program. The sounds are very edible. Even if you want to, put your own sound in there to make it a better sound, you can do that. It's all right there in front of you. Now, I don't know the cost on it. I know it is a paid thing, but it's not. It's an ongoing thing, I think, because I got a whole month to try this program out, and then you pay like monthly or yearly. It's probably not that much, though. I'm betting
you
it's
get a
probably not
trial.
that
I'm going to
much.
try this out then. That's cool. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's got a whole. You go and download it, you get a whole month free trial.
Oh, well, what's there to lose then? Give it a shot.
I'll get the link and we'll get it put in the description.
Mm-hmm.
I believe it might be simsound.com or simsound.net or something like that. But either way, we'll get it. We'll get it put down there for everybody.
Absolutely.
But it's a good program.
Yeah,
It's a
sounds
good
pretty cool.
program.
I have seen it on your stream a few times when I've tuned in. Yeah, so the one I was going to talk about was Fly Virtual. Most pilots will know what this is if you're new. Fly Virtual is a virtual airline, and there's a few cool things about them. So you download their tracking software called Smart Cars, and of course they have sound packs for each airline, which kind of does the same thing as sim sound in the announcements kind of bit, not the cabin sounds, but so you can download the sound packs, and each airline will have customized cabin flight attendant announcements. It's not quite as good as SimSound in terms of it picks up where you landed and things, but it does the job. But the thing that I really wanted to talk about was Smart Cars Premium, because I've wanted for a long time
I love that feature.
an iOS app that I could use to track my flight while I was away from the PC. If I do a long flight and I got to leave or sleep and I just want to check on it, and also one that'll send me notifications, and this is what SmartCars Premium does. So I think it's like $4 a month, and if you use Fly Virtual a lot, because I know they have specialized tours you can do with Fly Virtual and things, so if you use them a lot, you can get this iOS app, and it does several cool things. Obviously you can see your plane stats, and it will send you notifications if your plane has an issue, but it will also do several things automatically. So you can set it to pause under abnormal conditions, which means if your plane, if you're asleep or out and your plane starts nosediving or runs out of fuel, or something like this, it will pause the sim, and then when you get back, maybe you can fix it and not lose the entirety of your flight. You can also tick a thing that says pause at top of descent, which means if you're away and you think, oh, I'm not going to make it back in time, you can just tell it to pause, and as soon as you look like you're beginning your descent to the airport, it will pause the simulator for you, and you can do that manually as well from the app. You can hit pause at any time. So I really like that. It's good if you do long hauls, because obviously we can't sit at the PC for the entire time, and there was never really a good solution to track your flight. So this is good. As I say, it is paid. It's not a hell of a lot, and you also get the benefit of having all your smart cars flights that you do with the smart cars uploaded to the cloud, irrespective of what airline you're with. So let's say Fly Virtual unfortunately closed down, you would still have all your logged flights because they would be in the cloud. So that is another feature of Premium. So yeah, both are really good add-ons. There's a lot of things that do this. SLC is kind of a similar thing. There's PACX as well, which is another sound thing that can do the sound. So they all do sound. Smart Cars is a bit different with the Premium, but it's kind of personal preference with all of that. Give them all the shot. As I say,
I've got Premium too. I mean,
yeah,
it's useful because you got to remember, when you're doing these flights, there's a lot of us that still have the outside world that we deal with. And so we might get up. Maybe we got to go check our food or go eat, or something happens and you're needed right away. There you go.
Yeah, absolutely.
Problem solved.
Yeah, it's cool.
So,
what was the last thing? Oh, no, that was the last thing. Yeah, I think we've covered everything there. I think that was pretty much all the stuff I had written down here.
Just to jump back real quick, and because we want to make sure people understand, we're not out to go after anybody or say anybody's bad. We just want people, back at the beginning when we was talking about all this, we want you guys to just be able to understand that some things that you do can affect all of us, and we're a small community as it is, and we just want everybody to be appreciative when it comes to that.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess if I could say it in two things, it's just one, you got to be a bit proactive when you get involved. Like I say, watch videos, read tutorials, go to BVI Pilots Wiki, there's stuff there. Go to bvipilots.com, look at my channel, Josh's channel, BVI Pilots, Johnny's channel, all these channels, tune in, take a look. There's tutorials out there. Even better, download the stuff. FS-Tramp, these things have free trials. Get hold of them, have a look at them, try it out for yourself. Obviously, if you've got questions, then we will do our best to answer. But if especially if it's a kind of a question that, if I can see someone's really trying to learn, then that's fine. If they come in and just expect me to hand them the whole thing on a platter, I'm like, well, I'm just sorry, I've done this for 3 years or more. Yeah, I can't just tell you this is what you got to do. It would take me too long. You got to figure things out for yourself, and I guess just to be sensible about it. Yeah, that's pretty much all we're saying. And it's not that we're presenting opinions. I'm not trying to, because this is a podcast, right? It's for the whole community. I'm not giving you an opinion, say on fs2020. It's not my opinion that it's not going to be accessible. It's a fact. There's someone in the alpha, and we've contacted Microsoft, no answer. I'm sorry, but it's well, like I say, unless a miracle happens in the next 9 days or whatever it is currently a fact. It's not going to be accessible. That's not my opinion or Johnny's opinion.
Yeah. And trust me, if it was accessible, we would be talking about it.
Oh yeah,
even
we'd be
if it
jumping
was a
off the
little
rooftop.
accessible, we're gonna be all over it, man. We're gonna be all over it. So, we want you to keep your own opinions on stuff. We're not going to take that away from you. But
well, that's
when it
why we
comes
just
to
gave
fact,
them like three add-ons for sounds. Like we want you to try stuff out and
exactly.
choose. We're not going to say, hey, use this. This is correct. Like no,
but we are going to
test them.
tell you what's fact. We're going to tell you what's fact and what's
Yeah.
not. And what's fact, it's not accessible enough at the moment.
Yeah, at the moment.
That's
Hopefully it changes. We're
yeah.
doing our best. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
All right, guys. I think that's it. I hope you've all enjoyed. As always, this podcast will go to Apple, Spotify, all the usual favorite podcatchers. We are, as Johnny said, working on the bvipilots.com site, and so the link soon won't actually be a Spreaker one. It'll be a BVI Pilots link. We also have a for VI people listening. We're going to have a new image on the podcast
Yes.
very soon,
Yep.
which is a nice aircraft flying into the sunset with BVI Pilots written on it. So that is going to be our new cover image. So Ira helped me set that up.
And we're gonna put that on the page too. It's gonna be on the Apple podcast itself, and it's gonna be on the page. So when you go to bvipilots.com, what's gonna happen? You're gonna find a link near the top. It's gonna say BVI Pilots Podcast. You click on that, and it's going to be a dedicated page right there. It's
Yep.
going to have every podcast that we've done, right there on that page.
Absolutely.
You'll be able to contact us from there. You'll be able to leave comments from there. So it's going to be like a one-stop shop for the podcast. I'm excited.
Brilliant. As always, BVI Pilots Podcast with no S on the end, podcast at gmail.com. If you want to contact us, if you've got an idea or you want to come on the podcast, let us know. We will do our very best to respond to you and accommodate you and get you on if you had an experience or something that you want to share. It's all what we're about here. All right, guys, that's going to do it for today. So from me, thanks, Johnny.
Yeah, you guys take care.
Absolutely. All right, we will see you next week. I hope you've enjoyed. Have a safe week.